Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we're looking at Coinbase. It is time for another update, and it's been a while since we have been looking at this chart, and it is really time. We have been also asked to cover this stock, and we have failed to hold here the area of support, which would have allowed us to still track the idea in the white scenario for another move to the upside before looking for a more significant top, and not even as large of a retracement as we would now need to watch out for here in the yellow scenario. Now, even before we have actually pushed here higher into the resistance levels, we have been prepared to watch out that a break below the 50% retracement, a reset within the wave 4, would already make the white interpretation highly unlikely due to the proportions that would be needed for such an extension in the wave 4 compared to the correction that we had in the wave 2. And in that case, we were suggesting, this was in many of the videos that we covered on this stock, that if we fail to push directly into the fifth wave to the upside, we should be highly prepared for a failure, a complete failure in the white interpretation. And not only that, we were also tracking in the white scenario, we were looking for a possible more reliable movement to the upside in a wave A, where we might have built a 5-wave structure. And we had this latest area of support in the previous video, which clearly didn't hold, and we were looking at breaking this area of support as a high likelihood of a failure to push within the white scenario. So we had a couple of points where we were looking and scratching our head thinking, okay, this has very low chances of working out. Okay, and then when breaking here the wave 4 bottom, okay, this has even lower chances of working out right now. And yeah, rightfully so, because clearly we have failed to push higher and hold here within the white interpretation. We have been tracking the white scenario as long as we could have, but right now it is time to remove it, as it is no longer applicable, but it was useful in telling us when this structure to the upside was likely to start shifting within a more bearish scenario, something like the yellow interpretation, which isn't necessarily bearish over the long term, because we do still have this area of support we have here in yellow between the $161.5 all the way down to the $55.5, but we should be prepared in this case for a much more significant correction. And keep in mind, on this large time frame, we do still have a 5-wave structure to the upside. We do still have a good high probability trade set up here on the large time frame, but right now we need to be looking and be prepared for reaching to this area. And I know it may seem far and quite outrageous to even push even further after such a long and tedious correction, to be looking for even further decreases in price all the way down to even the first level, the 38.2% retracement. I have to say, it isn't necessary to get there. We might see an extension here even within the yellow scenario, but it is something we need to be prepared for, because right now within this structure to the upside, I have a full count. I don't need any additional movements to the upside to consider that this structure is complete, because I am tracking a leading diagonal. So I only need here an ABC structure in the wave 5 to have a full count. Now, with that said, we can still track two interpretations on this chart. So what remains is this yellow scenario where we have a wave 1 complete and we are looking for the wave 2 correction. This is quite simple. We should be prepared for even a possible 5-wave move to form in this area, not necessarily the ABC that we have labeled here. But then we could realize here that within this structure we have a very similar movement to what is happening on the Ethereum chart, where, by the way, we are going to also cover Ethereum today, so stay tuned for that if you are interested. But on that chart we are looking with a high need actually for an extension higher, an additional higher high to even have a full count. This isn't something applicable to this chart. We do have a full count on this chart, but it could be something that we could also track on this chart. Now again, this is not to say that it will work out, that it will happen, and even if on the Ethereum chart we will get the additional high, it doesn't mean that we will get it on this chart as well, but still we can be tracking this area of support between the $287.5 all the way down to the $181.7 for a reversal to the upside in a wave C. in an extension here of the yellow interpretation. So once again, this would still be as part of the yellow scenario. I wouldn't be tracking this as part of a different pattern, a different interpretation, unless we get some further evidence that yes, something more different may be going on. But what we want to see is after here the completion of this movement to the downside, the correction, we need to see the 5-wave move to the upside, because this simple AB setup, it's not a high quality trade setup. It's rather likely that we should be watching out with a bearish view, especially as long as this movement to the downside still seems to be forming as an impulse, which right now, by the way, it is. And we need to be prepared for even further extensions, quite possibly even directly into the area of support in yellow. Yeah, we don't need to even stop anytime soon. We could extend into something like a 1, 2, 3, 4th, and a 5th, and get maybe even to the 61.8% retracement just in the wave A to the downside. And then we would still be looking for a wave B top. Yeah, we would be looking for a relief rally, but then still another move down in a wave C. We would still be expecting lower lows in that case. So that is why I am waiting on this chart for any view on the long side, any interest on the long side. I need to see something more reliable. I need to see an initial 5-wave move to the upside, which would be an initial wave 1 of the larger wave C. After that is done, after we have our wave 1, we could be looking for a retracement here in a 3-wave pattern in a wave 2. And if we get that, it may be actually quite an interesting trade setup in this area, in the retracement area that we would be tracking after getting the 5-wave move to the upside in wave 1 for the 3rd wave to the upside. Because even if we get a failure, even if we form here something like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a wave 1, we get here the wave 2, and we are looking for the next 5-wave move to the upside in a wave 3. Even if we don't get that, it is still highly likely that this additional movement to the upside would come, even if after we face failure, because in the end we could mark this as an A. Yeah, this would be a wave A, this could be a wave B, and this could have been a wave C, which would be still part of the larger wave 2 that could still work out to the downside, but we would have had an opportunity to enter a high probability setup after this initial 5-wave move to the upside in the correction for another move to the upside in 5 waves, which would be a higher probability setup. But again, I am not looking to catch here the falling knife in the wave B in orange. It is not recommended. It is something I would stay away from due to the risks that I just mentioned. And with that said, we have pretty much covered everything about the larger time frame, and we can get here into the shorter time frame, where right now we are tracking this as an ABC pattern, and until we get some further evidence that this may be a 3rd wave to the downside, for example, actually completing this entire 5-wave move to the downside in an impulse, we will be tracking this as a wave C. So far so good. Within this structure we can actually track it as an impulse, where we have a 1-2 setup, then here probably another 1-2 setup, and then this could have been the 3rd wave down. We may actually have formed the actual wave 3 to the downside, and if we even check here the extensions for the 1, 2, 3, we can see that we have pushed into the 138.2% extension perfectly before we got our reaction to the upside. This is suggesting that it is an appropriate count to be tracking, and that we should be watching out for further resistance still into this area of resistance for the wave 4 if we are to expect or to continue trending higher. Now we will be tracking this internal count in white. It seems appropriate, since it could work out as both part of the yellow interpretation or the orange interpretation. And in this case, I would generally be watching out at the levels between the $250 level all the way up to the $273, even $74 level, where if we manage to break here above the 50% retracement, well, it might be a good signal that this structure is most likely not an impulse. It could be a diagonal pattern still forming to the downside, even in a wave C, even in a 5-wave move, but it would not be an impulse. Right now, I don't believe it is worth going through all the possible scenarios of how we could be tracking this count. I believe we should be a little bit more patient to see, because honestly, So far to the upside in this wave 4, we only have a 3-wave pattern, an ABC structure has formed in this area, and it might have already topped, and we might already be in this internal 5th wave to the downside. And the only other thing that I really want to leave you with in this area is the fact that if this is to form here an impulse, as is drawn here on this chart, we would be looking at a 1, 2, 3 once this 5th wave is complete, and then a 4th and a 5th, and then even a larger 1, 2, 3, 4th and a 5th, and only then would I actually have a full 5-wave structure within the impulse that we are tracking to the downside. And for now, for the long side, I am waiting for the 5-wave structure, for the evidence that we may have a bottom on a slightly larger time frame ideally, and then for resistance you have this area in white to watch out for. For now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.